Okay, we'll take announcements.
Daniel Trout for the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services. Jennifer Campos is my permeancy specialist. We're present ready, Your Honor.
Morning, so for the mother, Lisa Cortez. Both she and I are present and ready.
Okay, Michelson on behalf of Mr. Trevino, he is present and we are ready.
Stacy Zabala on behalf of the kids, you're ready.
All right. What do we have new since our court report was filed?
Both kids are doing good. Isaiah has been having some not bad agitated behavior, but he's more needy. He's wanting to be held 24/7. He did recently was taken to the ER because he was at daycare and they saw some blood on his mattress. And so Cassie took him to the ER immediately. They did a CAT scan. It was negative. They did say he had a cold and that he might have had a seizure while he was asleep, but they couldn't tell because he wasn't having symptoms at that moment. So they just said to monitor him and make sure, to keep an eye on him. As far as I know, he's doing well. He has been out of daycare for the past couple of days due to some illness and stuff like that. But other than that, as far as I know, he's doing well since I've seen him last. Parents have done well. They have had a meeting with Stacy and gotten some stuff together to make sure they know what they need to do in order for the kids to come home. We are looking at possibly starting overnights with Yazalina at first for a month, and then putting her back in the home, and then kind of start with Isaiah. The overnights will be in Lubbock. The first 2 overnights will be in Lubbock, just in case there's some issues that go on. That way he's close to Cassie and the hospital that he goes to down there. So.
Okay. So it'd just be sort of the beginning of reunification and
Yes, ma'am.
okay.
And Your Honor, on that, I haven't really seen any dates or anything or when they're wanting to get this started. I did get some emails yesterday on kind of what we're looking at, but I have not, they hadn't set up a full schedule yet. Is that correct, Ms. Campos?
That's correct.
Okay.
I was supposed to contact parents yesterday. I was busy. I was going to talk to them this morning before court and see if we could kind of get a schedule, but I can talk to them later on this afternoon. I can go meet with them and we'll get a schedule in place, at least for Yazalina.
And Judge, what they're looking at is working with Yazalina, getting overnights and visitations done that way, and then moving Yazalina into the home, letting them get used to that child being back in the home, and then slowly integrate Isaiah in there to where both kids won't be placed at the same time. They'll be staggered.
Right. And I think that's reasonable, and I think it's best interest of both children, quite frankly. So parents have been active in Isaiah's medical appointments and have been learning and getting prepared for that.
Yes, ma'am. Cassie's here. She can attest to, how the visits actually went. I was not there. As far as I know, they went okay. They have been participating in them. I have asked parents, what the doctors have said. Kind of briefly, they were able to explain it. They've, I am working on medical records for him. I did give them medical records for the beginning of the case. So that way they could go over that. It's a lot. But it's a start. And so I'm trying to help them get medical records, from everything from the time he was there till the time he was discharged, from doctors and stuff like that. They know his doctors and everything. So.
Right, and I will congratulate parents. I read that you both went back and got your diplomas, and I'm very pleased that you did that. That's great. So, all right, Ms. Lucero.
Your Honor, I just had a question for Ms. Campos, and I know that Daniel explained like probably how the schedule may play out, but I just want to be clear, when the parents start visits with Azalina, like, you know, a couple of overnights and slowly integrate her back into the home, is it just the younger child's visits that will be in Lubbock overnight, or Azalina's also?
The first couple of visits, we would like the parents with Isaiah by themselves. We don't want to integrate Yazalina just yet until he comes to Amarillo for overnights. Just so.
I think maybe you were mixing the kids up.
Me? Oh,
You said their
sorry.
name. That's okay. I mean, I know what you mean, but you reversed their names.
Okay, sorry. So Yazalina will not be going to Lubbock with the parents for the first couple of overnight visits with Isaiah. We want them to do them by themselves with Isaiah. So that way he can get their one-on-one attention just like Yazalina has been getting.
Okay, so so just to be clear, whenever they start their overnight visits with Yazalina, that'll be in their home, correct?
Yes, ma'am. Yes.
Okay, and then I guess they'll arrange with you so y'all approve of who's going to watch her whenever the visits with Isaiah start, and they go to Lubbock and have the overnight visits there with him, right?
Yes, ma'am. And so we have kind of talked that Maricela will take Yazalina as long as she is able to take Yazalina for those visits.
Okay. And do you have any idea how many how long this reunification plan? I'm just talking about Yazalina first, like a couple of with those overnight visits. Are y'all planning on those to happen here soon?
Yes. I'm gonna get with the parents because we want the parents to be at home together at night.
Okay.
And so whenever Xavier's off, because I know they work different schedules. And so I need to know when Xavier's off at nighttime. So that way they can get Yazalina and then we'll start from there.
Okay. And you'd stated earlier that the parents did meet with Ms. Zavala. I don't know if it was this week, but recently, is that correct?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. And as far as you know, was she requiring them to kind of be able to have a plan in place so they know? I know there's concerns because he has medical issues, but so they'd have a plan in place if something were to happen, who his doctors are, what to look for, and all those sorts of things.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right then. And then do you know just roundabout time frame before they can start those overnight visits with Isaiah in Lubbock?
So we are wanting them to at least have a month worth of overnight visits with Isaiah. With Yazalina, and then start with Isaiah.
Okay. All right then. I'll pass the witness. Thank you, Ms. Campbell.
Mr. Michelson?
Thank you, Your Honor. Before I forget, you indicated that you were going to meet with the parents today to come up with a schedule for visitation.
Yes, sir.
Okay. And will you send that schedule out to us so that we can see it?
Yes, sir. Most definitely.
Okay, good. And just for clarification, are there any services that Xavier needs to complete?
No, sir. He's completed everything.
Okay. And how would you describe his progress?
He has done very well. He got right on, his services and everything. He's done everything that I've asked him to do. They're very compliant. And, I couldn't have asked for better parents. I know that, we have concerns and stuff like that, but I feel like that he's grown just from the time that I've known him. I know that he's young. They're both young. There's just still some concerns there, but I don't feel like that he's a threat. I feel like that anything that I asked him to do or ask him to do, if he needed another service, he would be more than willing to do it. He's always worked with me, always been in contact, everything.
Great. Is there any areas he needs to improve?
No,
drug testing, when was the last time Xavier was drug tested?
Xavier was drug tested. I don't know the exact date. We did a hair follicle and a UA. It's October. I'm gonna say August, September, I think. Of course, the hair follicle was positive. it wasn't very high levels at all, but the UA was negative.
Okay. And is the department addressing that?
Mhm.
Okay, great. And you've indicated visitation, so I'll pass the witness.
All right. Ms. Zavala?
Just one clarification question and then a lot of information to add. When you say hair follicle for dad was positive, what was it positive for?
Marijuana.
Okay, so we're not seeing meth, we're not seeing anything like that. And those levels, are they going down?
Yes, they were really low. I remember in court last time he did inform me that he was taking those CBD gummies, and those have a little bit of THC in them. So he said that he's not taking them anymore. Of course, we can only do hair follicles every 3 months. So, but he's not taking them anymore. There's no concern with that.
Those are all the questions I have for Ms. Campos.
All right. Then Ms. Lucero, anything else today?
Your Honor, no, all my questions were asked, but I would just reiterate what Mr. Michelson said. If they can just send that reunification plan out to everybody, I'd appreciate it.
All right. And Mr. Michelson, anything further?
Nothing further, Your Honor.
All right, Ms. Zavala, do you have a recommendation today?
I do, Your Honor, and one witness to call just very, very shortly. So as was stated, I got to meet with the parents earlier this week. They've been working hard to try to get up to speed on Isaiah's medical issues. He's got some real severe medical issues, and it is vital that parents become experts in what is needed for his care before he can come home to them. They are working hard. They've got a good start. We're not there yet because they still need some medical records. The department is the one that's going to have to get those. They don't have that access at this point, and I know that Jennifer's working on that. But it is really important to me that this reunification with Isaiah be slow, steady, and fluid, because it depends on his needs. His life depends on getting it right. And Cassie's here to talk just a little bit about what those medical needs kind of look like, because at this point, we need everybody as informed about his medical care as we can get. And parents have done great, and I believe they will get there. With that being said, would it be possible for me to call Ms. Webb for just a moment to kind of fill everybody in?
Sure, Ms. Webb, if you'll unmute, you may proceed, Ms. Zavala.
Ms. Webb, what is your relationship right now with Isaiah?
I'm his foster mom.
And do you have specialized medical training?
Yes, ma'am. I'm an RN.
Okay. So as you've heard and we've communicated, we're working towards kind of a slow and steady reunification with parents. What information do you feel like the parents need to know about what his daily kind of situation is?
So every single day that we've got Isaiah, he does go to a daycare that is a smaller family-owned daycare that can work with his special needs. He sees physical therapy, occupational therapy for an hour twice a week, each single week, as well as speech therapy for an hour a week. Well, he sees speech therapy 6 times a month, so they do twice a week, every other week with him. We have the daycare workers actually spend a lot of time utilizing those therapy techniques for physical and occupational and speech for him, so that he gets therapy outside of that therapy time.
Hold on just a second. It looks like we just lost the judge. So
Okay, sorry, I totally lost connection. My apologies.
In addition to those scheduled therapists coming in and seeing him, our therapists have actually worked with our daycare staff to show them the techniques that we need to be working with him on constantly. At home, when he gets home at night, we still work with him for at least an hour of physical, occupational, and speech therapy at home. He has to have a medication called Keppra twice a day. He has to have that in with 12 hours between it exactly. So we give it at 7 a.m. in the morning before he goes to daycare, and we give it at 7 p.m. at night. Kind of the issue we see with his medications, he likes to try and spit it out. We have to be very careful so that he doesn't lose any of that dose, because that's what controls his seizures. Isaiah also doesn't have the capabilities to sit up straight on his own. He kind of hunches over. As far as walking, the therapists have leveled him at about a 5-month-old level. They don't know if he'll ever be able to walk on his own. What we have ordered for him is a specialized walker that he can both hold on to, but it also has like a canopy that goes above it that will suspend him in a just a suspension vest, because he doesn't have the physical capability to hold himself up. So that's something that he'll need, and he'll have to have space for to be able to walk with that walker's assistance. But that's pretty much a typical day for us. We have to be very careful not to let him fall over and hit his head. Something that the neurosurgeon did tell us early on is because of the degree of injury from being shaken, if he gets another head injury, he will likely not survive that. So we have to be very careful that he's not falling over hard on his head. That'll be something that'll have to be really paid attention to closely. We have to pay close attention to him as far as his body language. He doesn't have the typical shaking seizures. His are more focal seizures. So you have to really be able to recognize that as well. His limbs will stiffen. He'll stare off into space when he's having a seizure. So that's something that just really needs to be closely monitored as well. And then I think finally, one of our biggest concerns is his eating. He's a high choking and aspiration risk. We have to cut his food into little tiny bites, and he needs quite a bit of assistance with eating. He can grasp and try to feed himself, but he only ends up with about 25% of what he picks up actually in his mouth. The rest end up on the floor in the high chair. So we have to really kind of assist him with that and monitor for choking.
Okay. Thank you, Ms. Webb. I appreciate it.
Yes.
What is the plan for his care when we start looking at reunification, when parents working? You know, what have we gone down that road yet? Have we started to look at that?
So it's my understanding from meeting with them that mom will be the primary caregiver and not working at this point. I understand that there's a grandparent that lives right next door that they may be relying on. I think a lot of that still needs to be flushed out. So I think parents are definitely headed in the right direction, but there is lots of detail that's got to be filled in. And I apologize. One thing that I meant to ask Ms. Webb, but didn't, it's my understanding that Isaiah's, one of his big symptoms is a high-pitched squeal nonstop whenever he's upset. So one of the things that parents and I talked about is making sure that they've got kind of respite care to allow them to have a break so that when they come back, they can focus more directly. And Yazalina takes a lot of energy and effort as well. So as we develop this plan, I think we've got to be as detail oriented as possible in terms of who's going to be able to provide that respite care for them and the training and the information that those people receive as well.
Your Honor, I got one quick question for Ms. Webb real quick.
Okay.
Ms. Webb, you mentioned, as far as medication, you only mentioned one medication. Is there other medications that he takes at a consistent basis, or is it just that one main for the seizures?
No, sir. It's just the Keppra for the seizures. He can have Tylenol or ibuprofen for any pain, but that's his only prescribed medication.
Okay. All right. Thank you.
Anybody else have any questions for Ms. Webb? All right. Thank you, ma'am. We certainly appreciate everything you've done for this child and the good care that you've taken of him, and just a personal thank you, and I know everybody feels the same. So, all right then, I am going to continue the department as temporary manager and starter, and I will continue the children's placements. I will. I know we don't have a plan yet in place, but it's fine for the department in St. Francis to move forward developing a reunification plan. I would second Ms. Zavala's assessment that, this is going to have to move very slowly with Isaiah and, be completely tailored to his needs and tailored to the pace at which, he adapts to this. For parents, y'all have worked very hard. I'm real proud of you. I really am. But you guys are getting ready to launch into a very demanding home life. Y'all are young. The good part about that is you got more energy than I do. But this is not going to be easy. So the most important thing I can say to you is we work our way through this. If you guys are feeling like you're getting overwhelmed or you're over your head or you're just not sure about things, do not hesitate to reach out to any of these folks. Everybody here wants this to work. We want it to be successful. It's important for you to know that you still have a support system, to call upon. So use that, because I suspect you'll need it. And there's nothing wrong with that. And you're going to need to develop more and more of your own support system as, all of these folks begin to fade into the distance. So I just encourage you along those lines. All right, then. We will be set for our final on January 4th of 2024. That's a 9:00 docket. And we have not extended the case. I think whether or not that happens will greatly depend on how we're doing with transitioning Isaiah. So it is possible to extend. We won't if we don't need to, but it does give us some grace period. So okay. Best of luck to everybody over the next few months, and I'll see you back in January. Initial permanency hearing. We're conducting this through Zoom under a finding of good cause and agreement of the parties. We are live streaming, and Ms. Taylor's making our record. All right, we'll take announcements.
Daniel Trout for the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services. Christina Hunter is standing in for Aaron Stevens on this case. We are present and ready. Your Honor, I'd also ask, just due to some issues that we had come up, if we could go off of YouTube for this case.
All right. We'll go ahead and take announcements, and then we'll
Yes, ma'am.
come back to that.
Bailey Sapien on behalf of Blossom Lewis. My client is present and we're ready to proceed. I do not know what Mr. Trout is referencing, so I don't know if I object to going off of YouTube.
Jeff Hill on behalf of Jesus Torres. He's present. We're ready.
Stacy Zavala on behalf of the child.
All right, so Mr. Trout, without going into detail, is this information that concerns the privacy, confidentiality of the child, or like HIPAA related type?
It's kind of privacy, Your Honor, and I just not to go into too much, but there were some comments made from one party's parents to placements, and they have asked just for privacy to be off of YouTube. And I can, if you want me to, I can kind of tell you what it was.
Well, that may be self-defeating, but does it relate to the child or not?
It kind of, Your Honor, it relates to, I guess you would kind of say threats made toward placement from one party's parents. So we would, placement is kind of wants to be off of YouTube for privacy purposes. May we have a bench conference real quick?
Yeah, let's do. All right. Excuse me. All right, we've held a bench conference, and I've been given a little more information about the request to shut off the live stream. But I don't find that there is a basis for protecting the child's privacy or confidentiality or any kind of HIPAA situations, anything like that. So I am going to leave the live stream going, and then let me just ask. Let's see, we've got everybody's announcements. So what do we have new since the court report was filed?
As of right now, what I've been made aware, there's not really much new, Your Honor. Little man's still doing really well, so he's quite happy and thriving where he's at. We are requesting, though, if possible, to have UA and hair follicles ordered on both Jesus and Blossom today.
So, Ms. Lewis, Mr. Torres, you'll both need to go do those drug screens for us before 4 o'clock today. Can you both get there today? You have transportation?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right.
Once
Okay.
they're approved, Your Honor, on my side, I'll reach out to them to let them know that they can go submit at that point, if that's okay.
Sure. Okay. All right. Anything else then from the department?
No, ma'am. Unless Christina knows something I don't believe so, Your Honor.
No, Your Honor.
All right. So let me just ask a couple questions. I know Ms. Lewis, since her release, it sounds like she's gotten going on her services. And I thought I had read that Mr. Torres has not completed any other services. Is that correct?
I do apologize, Your Honor. I don't know completely off the top of my head. I kind of got thrown into this last minute.
Okay. That's what the report said.
Miss Judge Baker.
Yes, sir.
I've completed everything. The only thing I have left to do is the co-parenting since Blossom is out of jail.
Okay. It may have been a typo in the report. So since your regular permanency specialist isn't with us today, we're at a little bit of
I have all my certificates on hand as well. And I completed the OSAR last week when she submitted it.
Okay, good. All right then. So it sounds like you've been doing what we need you to do. So that's good. Okay. Ms. Sapien?
Thank you, Judge. I just have a few things, and I think we might need to make some amendments to the family plan of service. Number one, they were ordered to complete a bonding assessment, but because the child is in a different location, that's not able to be completed. And so I would hate for that to be counted against Blossom or even Mr. Torres.
I read that. I believe that was St. Francis's intent was to remove that. Is that correct, Ms. Hunter?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. All right. So I don't think that's a problem.
Okay. Another possible issue with that family plan of service is my client was ordered to do individual counseling with Delois Hinders, but she's completing individual counseling through TPC. And so I just wanted to be sure that that would count towards that service. Do you know, Ms. Hunter?
As far as on our side, as long as I apologize, I don't know, but I'm assuming Blossom has already signed the release of information, correct?
Have you, Blossom? Do you not remember?
Release for what? The family plan?
No, it would be released for them to either speak with or get notes from your counselor.
Honestly, I don't really recall. I don't really remember.
I can touch base with Erin and see if that's been completed.
Yeah, as far as the release of information is, as long as we're able to obtain the notes from her therapist, or at least speak with the therapist in regards to how she's doing, participating, any concerns or anything of that magnitude, it'll count.
Okay, great. And the last thing on the plan of service, Christina, is she went to do the WAVE program and they said she needed to pay out of pocket because there wasn't a reference. Or a referral? Have you heard of that before?
With family support services, I'll have to touch bases with them on that one. Some of their services are free and some of them are not. If it is a service that is not free, we can definitely look into trying to find her an alternative for that.
Okay.
Bailey, St. Francis will pay for WAVE and BIP, the WAVE and BIP program. We will cover that cost. So we just need to submit a 2054 to Family Support Services to cover those programs.
May I say something?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so I'm not sure if any of y'all are aware, but I am in a different court besides this. I can't really recall the name of it. since I did get locked up and incarcerated. I am actually enrolled in family support services on there, and I did an intake and stuff. I'm just waiting for them to get back on me, because with them, they do help me push things to get it seen sooner. I haven't received that email yet from them that they said that I was going to receive. So I'm just waiting on that for them to, get into family support services.
Okay, everyone, it looks like Judge Baker has lost service again. It'll be just a minute.
I have some new equipment from the state and it is not working. Ever since I got it, I've had this problem. So I'm so sorry, y'all. All right, let's see. Let's back up. Where were we?
The mother was telling you some things that she was working through with TPC.
Okay. So if y'all just back up and cover whatever ground I missed, I'm sorry.
That's okay. I think Miss Lewis was just saying she's also receiving some services through family support services. She's in the mental health court with Judge Hand, and so she's doing some services through that program.
Okay, good.
And the only other thing we had, Judge, was asking if we could get some in-person visits if she needed to meet halfway. Just due to the child's age and being so far away, we'd like some in-person visits to be set up if possible.
All right. So again, Ms. Hunter's a little disadvantaged. I don't know whether you want to try to ask that, or Ms. Sessions, is that something that we can arrange?
It is definitely something that I'm sure Erin, when she's going to be back next week, can definitely look further into to be able to get those set up. It's going to require coordination between placement and mom and seeing how that's going to end up working out as far as that part is concerned. But we can definitely help as best as we can.
Okay. All right. So if we can just make sure that she knows we can start working that way, I don't have a problem with it.
And Judge, I'm not sure if this is an issue or not. I know mom does have the other case going on and she's in the mental health court. Does she, Ms. Sabian, do you know, does she have any travel requirements? Because you said she could meet halfway. Is she under any kind of travel requirements on leaving the area and stuff if she had to travel?
Oh, go ahead, Blossom.
Actually, I do, but my probation and that court, they're willing to work with y'all's court as well. If y'all do need anything from judge, on behalf of what I'm doing, I'm willing to get that to y'all, get it signed off from the judge, because they are trying to work with my family plan and work with everything together, what I have to do.
Okay.
And typically, Daniel, in that mental health court, there's a probation officer assigned, and she would just get that permission through that specific officer.
Okay. I just wanted to make sure that was addressed in case something came up on that.
Thank you. And I don't have anything else, Judge.
Okay. All right. Mr. Hill?
I'm sorry.
Go ahead.
I'll wait. Go ahead, Mr. Hill.
All right, Mr. Hill.
Judge, I don't think I have anything more than what Mr. Torres expressed a few minutes ago about him completing his services.
Okay. All right. Ms. Vala?
Your Honor, the child's doing very well. In placement, I do recommend that continue. My only concerns about parents were fathers missing a bunch of hair follicles, and I understand that's been ordered today, so that should address that. And then over the last 6, 7, 8 weeks, mom's missed about 5 virtual visits. So I'm not opposed to in-person visits. We just want to make sure that scheduling is covered and that those actually happen.
May I say something?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, so just from a parent's point of view with everything in this situation that I have going on, yes, I have missed virtual visits. The reason behind that is, it is a little difficult because I do get carried away with my work schedule and everything like that, because I was doing overnights. I was working at Lone Star Dairy. I was doing overnights, 12-hour shifts. So it was a little hard on me of getting back, because I would do 6 to 6. So it was kind of a little hard. So I did maintain that thing for a little bit, but then I tried to get the time moved at a time that would be more reasonable for me. I just missed it because it does get, I do get a little carried away with my life stuff. It's really different than seeing your kid virtually than physically. I could just say that.
I understand that. But, of course, the visits are set up for, I mean, it's with the child being placed out of area, it's kind of the best we can do so that you can see the child on a regular basis. You know, at the child's age, honestly, those visits are probably more for you than they are for the child. And
Yeah.
so, you know, just try to, I mean, do your best to make all of those. And if you're not going to, you need to let, you know, you just need to let them know.
Yeah, I mean, I have a contact with I think her name's Sarah. I mean, we talk vaguely. I don't really, you know, but yeah, I understand that it's more for me. But I mean, it's just a little different because the last time I seen him, he was crawling. Now he's already walking. So it's kind of hard because I mean, I understand it's virtual is more for me, but it's just, you know, I wish I had that more physical interaction with them.
Well, we're going to work on that. But all I'm saying, Ms. Lewis, is that, you know, placement has a life, placement has obligations, placement is, you know, they have their things going on too. And if you're not going to make a visit, you need to let someone know in advance because it's, you know, they get ready, they set aside time in their day, you know, try to make sure child's awake. You know, I mean, it's working around all those things. So, you know, you just need to tell someone in advance if you're not going to be able to make it.
That's fine. I'll do that.
Okay.
And Judge, just for a court, I think it is required over to give them 24-hour notice if she's not going to be able to do that.
Okay.
I think that was more for physical. I haven't got any new paperwork stating I have to get 24 hours notice virtually. That is physical though. I do have to get a 24-hour and provide transportation.
Okay. Well, I'm just, you know, it's a common courtesy thing, if nothing else. You know, if I'm going to miss an appointment, I call ahead to tell them I'm not going to make it. You know, I mean, it's just common courtesy. So, all right, then I am going to continue the department as temporary manager conservator. I'm going to continue the child's placement. And I'm going to order parents to go drug test today. That'll be hair and UA. You need to be there before 4 o'clock. Wait to hear from Ms. Hunter and she'll tell you when you're good to go.
Judge, may I ask one thing? Just to ask Mr. Torres, if you have all your certificates for services that we don't have notification that you have finished, if you would get those certificates to your worker or to Ms. Hunter, either one, as soon as you can so that we can get that updated.
I've already emailed Erin. I talked to her last week and I've emailed her. We went over all this stuff. She told me she wasn't going to be in this week. So she couldn't put nothing in or whatnot. But yeah, I already talked to her about that.
Okay.
Yeah.
And it may be, Judge, this was filed on the 6th, so she may have talked to him after that, so it may not have been updated. But
right, I understand.
If there are any that you haven't sent, please get them in.
Mr. Torres, it's a good idea to send that stuff to your attorney too, if you have not.
Okay. Well, I got a new phone, miss. I just got in contact with him yesterday. We talked for a long time. I updated him, but I will email him these paperwork as soon as we get off.
Good. All right, then I will see everybody back. Our next hearing is February 13th of 2024 at 9 o'clock in the morning.
Thank you, Judge.
Thank you, Your Honor.
Thank you.
Before Jesus and Blossom leave, if y'all don't mind, can either y'all or your attorneys send me your most current phone numbers just to make sure I do have the correct ones?
Yes, ma'am. My phone number is the same as it always been on record.
Okay. The one that I had contacted you on long time ago?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, cool.
210 area code.
Okay, cool.
Yeah, mine's still the same as well.
Okay, awesome. I just wanted to make sure. So thank you guys.
Thank you, Miss.
Hearing. We're conducting this through
you.
Zoom.
Thanks.
We're live streaming and Ms. Taylor's making our record. We'll go ahead and take announcements.
Daniel Trout for the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services and Marvell Collins will be standing in for Haley Grissom today as my permanency specialist.
Lauren Lucero on behalf of the mother, Your Honor, Kaylin Robinson. I'm present and ready. I do not believe Ms. Robinson will be present today.
I think she's here on a phone line.
Oh, is she?
Mr. Hammonds is on the phone.
Okay.
Yeah, TD Hammonds for Robbie Wilson. I spoke to him last night. Judge, I thought they were going to join in. They're up in Pampa still.
Is he present with mom by any chance? Wait a minute. I thought we had her logged in.
Yeah, I believe they were together last night, Judge, when I spoke to him.
Well, and she was in and I admitted her. Pretty sure, but they're gone now. I'll just have to see if they log back in. I'm sorry.
Thank you.
Okay. Did we get everybody's announcement?
Stacy, sorry. Stacy Zavala on behalf of the child.
I was just gonna say, I don't think we got Ms. Zavala yet.
Okay, I'll watch for him. I thought I had joined her. Did anybody else see her on screen? There she is. Okay, she's just come back in. She's having the same problem I'm having today. All right, Ms. Robinson. Let's see if she's got audio. No, don't have audio with her. All right, Ms. Robinson, is Mr. Wilson there with you as well?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, they're both there together. All right. Okay, then, what do we have new since our court report was filed?
There's really nothing new since the court report is filed. The child's scheduled to get an MRI of his brain the first part of November, just to rule out the fluid in the blood at the birth because of the syphilis. So he has that MRI scheduled the first part of November, I believe. Other than that, there's no update on the child. He's doing very well in his placement, developing as he should, thriving, eating well, sleeping well. Very happy kid.
Is this just to monitor the amount of fluid?
It's to eliminate that he is not having any problems from the initial fluid that was found. And he doesn't seem to be having any problems. They just want to rule it out and make sure it has not moved up to the brain.
Okay. All right, good. Thank you. All right. And I had read that he is having regular visits with family, with relatives, and that there was a pending home study on the maternal grandfather. Have we gotten anything back on that?
Yes, the home study was actually filed. We had to do a kinship safety assessment on the home because actually of his criminal history. It's old criminal history, like 17 years old. There were some other concerns in the home study as far as financial stability, housing stability, his own history as far as his own children, not raising his own children. At the time of the home study and the KSE, he had his own home with his wife and her son. Since that has been completed, he has moved and is living with a his wife's sister, and a child or an adult that she has guardianship of. An addendum has not been completed on that home yet because there was a lot of red flags in the initial one. So it's been filed and it's actually been denied. Okay. We don't want to completely rule them out long term. We just need to finish some other stuff as far as an addendum, see if we can rule out some of the other concerns. But right now it has been denied.
Okay. So have we gotten any services initiated, or have parents decided that they want permanency with family? I mean, I just read that there was some consideration of that.
Yes, mom, they have not done any services. Mom would like the child to be placed with her dad, who the home study is on. They have not initiated any services at all. She did show up at a permanency conference last month. She was late, but we filled her in afterwards. She was hoping that, in her mind, she was going to start services after the child was placed. So I kind of explained to her that that's really not how it works. But they don't want to do a drug test to even have visitation with the child.
That's not true. We'll do a drug test, we said, but y'all want to work for us? We want y'all to do something for us. Y'all done nothing for us, but take our kid. So like y'all say y'all are here.
Ma'am, Ms. Robinson, let me point out the obvious. All these people are taking care of your child. I think they are doing something. And this isn't a negotiation. You either work, you either work your services or you don't. And there's consequences to not working those services. So as I've told you all in the past, failure to work your services can result in termination of your parental rights. And if you choose not to drug screen and you choose not to work your services, that's exactly where we'll be headed. So you can turn your camera off if you're mad. I don't care. But I'm just telling you, do not tell me that these people are not doing anything for you. It couldn't be farther from the truth.
I have to turn my camera off because it slows down my phone.
Okay, that's fine. But do you understand the position that you all are in if you don't work services?
You?
You're muted. Okay, I can't have a discussion with you if you don't unmute. All right. Yes. Okay. Just leave it there. Don't mute again. So I'm going to order you both to go drug test today. You need to be there before 4 o'clock. Failure to appear, failure to give a proper sample will be deemed a positive result. It always is. So if your all's desire is that the child be placed with family, your attorneys can certainly discuss your options with you about that. But otherwise, I want to make sure that you both understand failure to work your services could mean termination of your parental rights. Do you both understand that?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
But I want you to understand too, like I never, like, this is gonna sound wrong, but I never wanted Carson. I just lost a baby right before him, and I didn't want him.
Hold on a bit. We'll talk about that later. Let it get to me so I can address the court about what you and I had discussed.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Judge, this is TD. May I ask the department if the home study on maternal grandfather is denied for whatever reason, does the department have on their list other family members that could then be considered?
I know we had one, Mr. Hammonds, but we lost contact with her. It was, I think, a paternal grandmother.
Okay.
So if there's somebody else that's come into the picture, I don't know about it. So
No.
Yeah,
Ms. Collins, do we have any other family?
Haley went and visited with mom and the grandmother the other day, and they were going to come up with hopefully somebody, but they're really adamant that they want the child to go with the maternal grandfather. So they didn't have anybody when they talked to Miss Grissom, is my understanding, but they were going to continue to search.
So as always, Mr. Hammonds, once that addendum is done, it sounds like his circumstances have changed a little bit. And once that addendum is done, if it's denied, of course, you know, certainly everybody has the right to ask me to take a look at it, because I can, obviously, if it's an in-state home study, I can override that.
I understand.
So I think let's get the addendum done whenever that's appropriate to do, and we'll take a look. So, I mean, I will just make sure mom and dad both know that even if the department denies that home study, I can look at it and decide whether, in spite of that, I still want to place the child there.
Yes.
Okay. So I just kind of want to know that the parents understand that.
I understand.
Okay. And it happens, you know, so I don't want you to think that that's such a long shot that it never happens, because that's not the case. We often have cases where we've got really old criminal history, we have really old other stuff, and it's just department policy that they can't necessarily, you know, approve, but that doesn't mean that I can't. So, okay. So I will tell you this, I promise I will look at it if that happens.
Thank you.
Okay.
Also, my little brother and his wife, they said that if anything, they'll try to take Carson if my dad can't get him.
Okay, you just need to provide their names and everything to Ms. Collins so that she knows who to make contact with.
Okay.
Okay. Okay, Ms. Lucero.
I don't have any questions for Ms. Robinson, but I had discussed with her, and also I had some info about, you know, the pending homes, well, the denied home study. I didn't know if this is the right time for me to bring all that up or not.
No, go ahead.
Okay. It is correct. Ms. Robinson has advised that her preference, of course, is that Carson be placed with her dad permanently. We did discuss, and I had advised her that today you more than likely would order them to drug screen. She had advised me that she would go. I spoke with the paternal grandfather. The situation has has changed, and I know that the addendum is going to be done, but they're living in a 4-bedroom, 2-bath home in Lubbock. He and his wife are both working. I think the finances are better. And as you stated, and as Ms. Collins stated, it's my understanding that the criminal history is old. So I would appreciate for you to look that over once the addendum is done, or if needed, if I could maybe, request a placement hearing so we could have them come in and testify and clarify any issues or concerns that you might have. But that's kind of where we're at. So I'm hopeful that this addendum won't take long. I know sometimes it takes a bit, so that we can move forward and hopefully place Carson with his paternal grandfather.
And I think if the homestead is denied, obviously, yeah, I'm going to grant y'all a full placement hearing. There's no problem with that.
All right, thank you.
Mhm. All right, Mr. Hammonds. Mr. Hammonds?
No further information, Judge. I guess to clarify, is Ms. Collins the caseworker from this point forward, or is she subbing for Haley Grissom today?
She's the supervisor on the case, TD. Miss Grissom's just out right now.
I got you. That's all I have, Judge.
Okay. All right, Ms. Zavala.
Your Honor, Carson's doing great. He's had an ACI evaluation. Everything's on target. Placements on top of health needs and just making sure that everything gets checked out, but he's doing great. I agree. We need more information on grandfather at this point. I just did a cursory review, and I think some of the concerns could potentially be addressed. So I'm interested to see how the updated information looks. And of course, we can address it at a placement hearing.
Okay. All right. I think everybody agrees we will do that. Okay, then I will continue the department as temporary managing conservator. I'll continue placement. And then if we'll go where we need to go, depending on the results of the home study and the addendum. And otherwise, I'll see everybody back on February 13th of 2024 at 9 o'clock in the morning, on a 9 o'clock docket. So,
Your Honor, can we order the drug test? And there's mention of them living in Pampa. I thought they lived in Amarillo. Can we find out where they need to drug test?
Yes, Mr. Robinson, where are y'all located?
Amarillo.
Okay. Amarillo?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Then you'll need to go out to Care Express out on 2329 Ross Osage Drive.
Yes, ma'am.
Your Honor, if I may, if Ms. Robinson drug screens will, I heard Ms. Collins say earlier that that's one of the reasons they're not having visits. If she drug screens today, can we look into visits, or how would that work?
I'm good with that as long as we've got negative UAs. We can start visitation if we have negative UAs.
You want a hair and UA today or just a UA?
I want hair and UA today, but I'm just saying, but to start visitation, we want a negative UA. Jasmine Peterson, we are here today on our initial permanency hearing. We're conducting this through Zoom. We're live streaming, and Ms. Taylor's making our record. All right, I'll go ahead and take announcements.
Daniel Trout for the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services. Garrett Killo is my permanency specialist today. We were present ready.
TD Hammonds for the mother of Jasmine, Gloria Goucher. I'm ready to proceed, Judge. I got a contact from her this morning. I had sent her the Zoom ID to log in. She was asking again for that information, so I don't know if you see like an unknown phone number. It's a 810 area code.
No. She's just now logged in. Okay, let me admit her. All right, we'll go ahead and finish taking announcements.
Vince Nowak on behalf of the father, Russell Peterson.
Stacy Zavala on behalf of Jasmine.
Looks like she's got it. All right, then. What do we have new since the court report was filed?
Your Honor, as far as I'm concerned, I don't believe I have any new information from the filing of the court report.
All right, let me just ask you, have we started any services?
None that I have any proof of. In my report, I have in there some previous drug tests that they took, both parents took while still in Amarillo, and I have information about an address that they have given me in Michigan where they're reported to be living, but I don't have any proof of parenting classes completed. There was, before the move to Michigan, there was some completion of individual therapy with Jennings counseling, but since the filing of the report and since the move to Michigan, there hasn't been a whole lot of participation in services. We don't have any service providers up in Michigan that we can that we have contracts with.
Sure. So they began a few things, but then the move, they've not initiated anything further that you're aware of.
That's correct, Your Honor.
Okay. All right, then child's doing well. No problems there, no concerns?
No, Your Honor. Jasmine's doing very, very well. She's a happy baby. She's social, meeting all of her milestones, even exceeding a bunch of them. She is in great health, looks great, is always in a great mood. She's very well loved and taken care of.
Okay. All right, Mr. Hammonds?
Judge, I have nothing to add at this point. I think Mr. Nowak may have some issues, and we're kind of in the same wagon with Mr. Nowak, so I'll let him express those.
All right, then we all know that Mr. Nowak is probably more expressive than you are, Mr. Hammond, so we'll allow him to attack.
I'm on my best behavior today, Judge. Thank you so much. Garrett, you mentioned drug test. The drug test on Russell, how'd that come back? Negative?
We had we did one, or Mr. Peterson did one drug test that was in May 18th of this year, that was negative, and then on July 31st of this year he no-showed for a drug test, which would be a presumed positive.
Gotcha. Now on the May drug test, was that both UA and hair?
Yes, sir.
And just to refresh the court's memory, Mr. Peterson is the non-offending parent here, correct?
Yes.
In other words, the state would not be involved had Mr. Peterson not called 911 on the day the child was removed, correct?
Yes.
And as far as you know, any allegations made against Mr. Peterson to the department have been ruled out reason not to believe, or whatever the phrase is, correct?
Your Honor, I would object to this line of questioning. We had full extensive hearings, and I think it's
a quick question.
That was covered.
It's a quick question, Judge. The department, I apologize, Judge, you get the rule. My bad.
Okay, I'm going to allow him for Mr. Killer to answer what the ruling was on that, but obviously the court knows what the court heard at a full adversary hearing. So.
The department did not find any reason to believe that Russell had done anything bad towards Jasmine, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Would it help you to have Mr. Peterson's current income history?
That would be helpful.
And a mortgage on his house in Michigan, or the deed, something like that, correct?
Yes, that would also be helpful.
And I'm going to do my best to get that stuff to you. If not today, Garrett, certainly by tomorrow. Judge, that's all I have. Thank you so much. Oh, one more question. So parents are in Michigan, child's in Texas. And Garrett, this might not be a question for you. This might be a Daniel Trout type question. I mean, what are our options here?
If I may quickly, I've asked both Mr. Peterson and Ms. Goucher to identify possible caregivers in Michigan that we could conduct home studies on, whether that be family or fictive kin, so that we could put in an ICPC for out-of-state home study, and no caregivers have been identified to me at this time. So that's as far as I know. to do.
Garrett, thank you so much. Judge, I pass the witness.
All right, so with respect to services, so the department obviously can't pay for services out of state, so parents are going to have to locate their own service providers. There might be some things that we could do virtually, and anything that might be appropriate to do virtually, then, you know, we could do that. But there's just some things that are going to have to be done, obviously, in person, such as drug testing.
Your Honor, if I may, we are also providing them with virtual visits with Jasmine every other week. They're very short since Jasmine is so young, and it interaction over a screen is kind of difficult, and throwing her out of her routine is not something that we want to do with her being so young. Mr. Jennings has offered to continue virtual counseling with both parents, as individual with both parents, as well as couples counseling, but as it's my understanding that the parents have failed to reach out to Dr. Jennings.
So, Mr. Novak, Mr. Hammonds, you all can visit with your clients about that. You know, so that's something that they could do, and isn't going to cost them anything. You know, that would knock out quite several things, both of their individual, their couples, and you know, quite frankly, we can address some other things through that counseling that we otherwise might send them to a separate service provider. But there may be a lot of ground that we could potentially cover just through Dr. Jennings.
I'm gonna strongly encourage that, Judge.
And
so,
Judge, if I may, I was going to ask Mr. Killo, is there, while we're talking about this as far as virtual, are there any other of these type of services y'all are asking the parents to do that can be done virtually that you know of right now?
Not that I'm aware of. I do know that as far as like a psychological evaluation or an OCR assessment or anything like that, like especially Stonebridge does not do psychological evaluations while the parents are located out of state. That's something they have difficulty with. But
have they done their psychosocials?
I believe Mr. Peterson completed a psychosocial with Dr. Jennings, and we've been looking at the recommendations for that as far as other services that we have listed on the report.
All right, so if mom hasn't done that, that obviously could be done virtually with Dr. Jennings, I think.
Yes, Your Honor. And I believe Dr. Jennings could provide, like you said, other things such as substance abuse counseling or things such as that virtually.
Absolutely, that's in his wheelhouse. So I'm just looking at service plans here. Clearly think Dr. Jennings could cover parenting.
Yes, Your Honor.
I think as stated, I think any substance abuse counseling could be, and I think that could be handled with him.
Potentially waive with Ms. Goucher.
I would think so.
Judge T.D. Hammonds here. May I ask Mr. Kilo a couple questions?
Yeah, hang on a second. Let me get through this.
All right.
I think, you know, other than drug testing, you know, and even to some extent, I mean, I think Dr. Jennings could probably assess as far as what OCR would normally do. I mean, that's one of his specializations, I believe. So, you know, I think there's an awful lot of these services that we can just do through Dr. Jennings, but parents are going to have to be willing to go drug screen, you know, somewhere in their area and sign releases so that that can be released. And I'm guessing that will have to be at their expense.
Judge, if I may, we can locate drug screen places out of state that are in like the network essentially with TDATs, so that we could pay for those drug screens and have access through them through our system. We would just need a zip code of where they live, and then our data people can figure out the closest available drug screen place to them.
Hey, Aaron, And I
Yeah.
apologize for interrupting, but I just have it right in front of me. The zip code in Michigan is 4.
Did you get that, Garrett?
Yes, I have that.
Okay, excellent.
So I think let's cover all the ground that we can through Jennings. But yeah, so parents can drugs, if we can locate a lab and get them sent and we'll pay for it. So,
Yes, Your Honor.
And
so to parents, cost of services then sounds to me like should not be an issue. Okay, Mr. Hammonds, anything to add?
Mr. Kilo, how long have you been with St. Francis?
Since the beginning of this year.
All right. During that period of time, have you had situations like this where parents are a long distance away from the child, even out of state?
No, sir.
Okay. In staffing this with your supervisors, has there even been an option on the table that maybe this entire case at least could be considered to be transferred up to Michigan, closer to the parents? Is that even an option?
That was discussed, but it was my understanding that was not our place to make a decision legally. So,
Okay, so it goes probably to Mr. Trout's desk as far as if that could be an option.
Mr. Hammonds, let me just tell you what I encounter on this all the time. If there is no, SAPs up in Michigan or no other prior court action, in Michigan, then a Michigan court, whatever has jurisdiction over where they reside, has to agree to take jurisdiction under, of course, the UCCJEA. And if they have nothing up there, there's nothing for them to put it into unless something gets filed up there. So it either requires their department, whatever it's called, whatever their equivalent of child protection services, they would have to staff, they would have to initiate a case, they would have to, present that to a court. And my experience is it's very unlikely that's very unlikely to happen because the reasons for removal occurred in the state of Texas.
Right.
And so their department is very unlikely to just go initiate a case when the investigation and everything else occurred in Texas. So I think I'm just going to tell you, I think that is probably a non-starter.
Okay, that's fine. Thank you. Nothing further.
Like if it's just like if Michigan removed the child and then parents moved to Amarillo, and there's nothing here. My answer would be I've got nothing to take jurisdiction of.
Right.
So it's a really difficult deal.
I understand.
But I think we are offering parents a way to get these services worked. I know it's not ideal, and that the child's a long way away. But in fairness, parents made a conscious choice to relocate that far away from the child. And I don't know what their reasons were. They may have had very good reasons. Maybe they have a better support system, but the bottom line is somebody made a conscious decision to do that.
Right.
So here we are.
All right. Nothing further from me, Judge.
All right, Mr. Nowak.
Nothing further with with Garrett Kilo. I would like to call my client, and I mean, when I say brief, I mean briefly, Judge. But I'm not sure if this is the time to do that or not. But I'll pass Mr. Kilo as a witness.
Yeah, that's fine. No, you're up at bat.
I would call Russell Peterson, please.
All right, Mr. Peterson.
Yes, I'm here.
You promised to tell the truth today?
Absolutely.
Okay.
Russell, we're going to move fast because the court's running behind today.
Okay.
Do you have a job?
Yes.
What do you do?
I have 3 jobs that I do. I'm a volunteer firefighter, of which I sent the pictures to you. I have a landscape business, of which I also sent you proof of. I am also a business owner of my security business.
Can you send to me, and I'll get it to Garrett, can you send to me your income history for the last month or so?
I absolutely can.
Okay, volunteer firefighter. I know here that they're drug tested. Do they drug test volunteer firefighters in Michigan?
They drug test every firefighter once a month in the state of Michigan. It's a state requirement.
Have you been drug testing?
Yes.
Have you passed?
Yes.
Will you send them to me and I'll put them in a business record affidavit and file with them with the court?
Absolutely.
Do you have a house?
Yes.
You have a mortgage?
Yes.
Are you paying the mortgage?
Absolutely.
I'm not sure about property taxes in Michigan, but I'm sure there's some. Are you paying your property taxes?
Yes.
Okay. Do you have any cars to drive or vehicles?
Yes, I do. I have a 2023 Chevy Silverado 2500 HD. I also own a 1949 Chevy Deluxe Coupe Classic, and my response vehicle to and from the fire department is a 2002 Chevy Silverado.
And you're on call currently, correct?
Correct.
Okay. I don't have many bills given where I live. I have an electric bill, but a lot of people have a gas, electric, water. Are you current on all your bills, utility bills at the house you live in?
I am, yes. My bill right now is $370. That's about normal for the state of Michigan.
It is paid, correct?
Correct.
Okay. Have you made all the virtual visits with your daughter, Jasmine?
Yes.
Are you willing to work with Steve Jennings over Zoom or FaceTime, however it works out, to finish up whatever services he can provide to you?
That is correct. I've actually been waiting on him to contact me. I've put in several calls to him with no return phone calls.
Well, why don't you send him an email and copy me, and we'll see what we can do about that.
Absolutely.
Russell, that's all I have. Judge, thank you. I pass the witness.
All right. Does anybody have any questions for Mr. Peterson?
No, Judge.
No, Judge.
Ms.
No
Vaughn?
questions.
All right. Ms. Zavala.
Here under Jasmine's doing great in placement, thriving, and I recommend that placement continue.
Okay. So I'm going to continue the department as temporary managing conservator, and I'm going to continue placement. And let's try to get as many services as we can through Jennings. So parents, as a clarification, in particular, Mr. Peterson, the drug screens that you do for the volunteer fire department may not be sufficient for our purposes. Those are likely just positive or negative, and they don't give levels. That's kind of the way it is with most, employers. They're not interested necessarily in levels and watching if things are coming or going or up or down. They're interested in, is it positive or is it negative? So you guys can send that stuff to Mr. Novak and he can file it. But I'm just telling you, when we ask you to drug screen, you're probably still going to need to go do it. But because my guess is those are not going to be sufficient. I may be wrong, but my guess is they won't be. So yes, sir.
Real fast, Your Honor, if I may, they test all levels. They do hair test, the hair follicle, as well as urine. It's a state requirement up here for all firefighters.
Okay, well, we'll take a look at them, but I'm just telling you, sometimes when we see those kinds of screens, they are not completely sufficient for our purposes. So, that's fine. Send them to us. If they are, that's great. We may have an authentication issue, but we'll cross that bridge, I guess, if we have to.
In Your Honor, I would just ask Mr. Killo and them if they could go ahead and start working on finding somebody in network up there. And as soon as they do, we can get them sent for a drug screen at that time once we get that set up. But if they would go ahead and get started on that.
Yes, sir.
Your Honor, real quick, if I may too, is there any possible way that the courts would be able to order Mr. Kilo to reach out to Dr. Jennings again, to have him reach out to me? Because I have reached out to Dr. Jennings several times with no prevail.
I will ask Mr. Kilo to do that.
Thank you, Your Honor.
And again, Mr. Novak may be able to assist you with that.
Awesome. Thank you.
He has very long arms. He can reach out.
And Judge, may I ask Mr. Killo something real quick on that?
Yes.
Mr. Killo, I know sometimes providers, after they, visits or counseling sessions and stuff have stopped after so many times, they'll kind of drop them and then they'll have to start back up. How do you know if that's happened with Mr. Jennings and maybe that's why he's not reaching out right now? Is it Mr. Peterson been dropped due to stopping the visits, or do you know?
The last time, the last time I spoke with Dr. Jennings, Mr. Peterson and Dr. Jennings had a session scheduled that had initiated, and then Mr. Peterson was interrupted, I think, by law enforcement. And so the session ended, and Mr. Peterson was awaiting, Dr. Jennings was awaiting Mr. Peterson to reach back out. And that was Dr. Jennings told me that his understanding was that both Ms. Goucher and Mr. Peterson needed to reach out to him in order to initiate those services. But I believe that that is correct. Since there has been such a gap in services, we will probably need to put in new service authorizations and restart things.
When was that visit you were talking about? I mean, has that been in the last month, or is that 2 or 3 months ago?
2 or 3 months ago.
Okay. All right. Yeah, if you could reach back out to Mr. Jennings and see what he needs in order to get some things kicked back off.
Yes, sir.
All right. Thank you all very much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Judge.
Mr. Nowak, can you give me a call, please?
I'll do that and judge permission to exit the virtual courtroom.
Yes, sir. Thank you.
Thank you so much. Have a great day.
Services
Thank
case.
you.
And
Thank you, Judge.
we are conducting this through Zoom under a finding of good cause and agreement of the parties. We are also live streaming, and then Ms. Taylor is making our record. So we'll go ahead and take everybody's announcements.
Todd Alley on behalf of the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services. Your Honor, I've not had an opportunity to talk to Ms. Grant, but my understanding is Ms. Donaldson has been active in producing a family plan of service. So I think we have an agreed order.
Okay, great.
Stacy Brown on behalf of the mother Genesis Donaldson, and Your Honor, it is our intention to agree to the order to participate. The family group conference where we were going to finalize the service plan that we're working on has been rescheduled to November 3rd so that Ms. Donaldson's full support system could be present. But at that point, we should have a service plan that is in format to be signed. But we're in agreement with the court ordering a service plan today.
Stacy Zavala. Oh, sorry. On behalf of the kids. I have not yet been able to meet with the kids. I do want to make sure that Ms. Donaldson knows my role and that I'll be calling. There were some meetings that were scheduled and rescheduled, and so I'll be able to participate in those as well. But just wanted to let Ms. Donaldson know who I am and that I'll be contacting to come and meet with the kids.
All right. So Ms. Donaldson, just so that you do understand, and you can, and certainly you can talk with your lawyer about this, but Ms. Zavala is the children's attorney. And by virtue of that fact, she's entitled to access to the kids at any time. You know, if she or her office and her assistant's first name is Kelly, if they call, you need to respond to them and, you know, agree to meet with them right away. Okay.
Okay.
All right.
And Your Honor, for the court and Ms. Zavala's file, Ms. Donaldson does not have a vehicle. And so she does have a library near her home where we will be requesting to allow the children to meet with some therapists and stuff. And also she'll make her home available for anybody that needs to check the home or whatever. But she is dealing with some fallout from the domestic violence where her anxiety levels are not letting her be comfortable with strangers in the home right now. We're going to work through that with some therapy and counseling as part of this service plan. But I just wanted Ms. Zavala to know of those delicacies in this case so that she would be aware if Genesis had high anxiety when scheduling meetings. But she does intend to cooperate, and I've explained Ms. Zavala's role, and I will do it again.
Okay. All right, then Ms. Grant, then it is your client's agreement for me to name the department, or excuse me, for me to order these services, not name the department, but to order the services, and she understands that they're going to be looking to her to work those things and get that done.
Yes, Your Honor. I believe the current proposed schedule is counseling for the children 2 times a week for 2 hours. And as Ms. Donaldson is getting familiar with the parties who will be assisting the family, she has been cooperating, but we did want to ask that they consider maybe the library there at some point for some of the stuff to give her a little bit of time from strangers being constantly present in her home at the beginning.
All right, and Mr. Albee, y'all on board with kind of taking a slow tactic here?
We will for sure work with her as long as she's working with us. Sure, we'll make it work. Yes.
All right. Okay, and Ms. Zavala.
Your Honor, it would be my agreement as well.
Okay. And, you know, it may be Ms. Donaldson that Ms. Zavala, if there's pretty weather, you know, y'all could agree to meet somewhere, and I mean, even somewhere outside where the kids could, you know, enjoy, but I'm sure she will also work with you on that. Do you have transportation, ma'am?
No, ma'am, I do not.
Okay. So we may be looking for some assistance with transportation. Will we, I guess, Mr. Albee, will we be able to do that?
We typically have some transportation that we can provide, especially here in town. So I would think that would not be a hurdle that we could not overcome.
And weather permitting, Judge, that library is the reason I identified the library is because that's very close to her home, where on at least slightly pleasant days, her and the children could go for a walk, go over to the library, enjoy some books, and meet with anybody and do that as well. So just that's why we threw out the library, just FYI.
Okay.
And there's a park right across the street.
Okay, sounds good. All right. And, you know, Ms. Donaldson, as you get more comfortable with some of these folks, they will have to come into your home at some point in time. I just want you to know that will have to happen. But
I'm not uncomfortable with them coming into the home. It's just, I just moved here, so I don't have like all of the furniture and things like that. But I've allowed everyone who's came over to come into the home and see whatever they ask me to show them. It's just, I don't have the means to have a lot of people in the house because I don't have the furniture and things like that, as well as my anxiety.
okay. Well, you know, the whole point of this is for all of us to work together and to, you know, get you in a better situation and the kids, and, you know, just to not fall back into, you know, the problem that we have right now. So, all right. Then I will find that it's in the best interest of the children, and based on the agreement, to go ahead and order these services, that find that, you know, this is a reasonable alternative to, you know, certainly doing illegal removal of the children. We'll work with the family and try to keep family together. And so between now and our next hearing, Ms. Donaldson, you know, they're going to make sure you understand everything. And it sounds like y'all are already working that way as far as getting things going. So I'll see you back January 16th of 2024. And we'll have what we call a compliance hearing. It's just kind of to update me on how everything's going, what progress you've made on services, how the children are doing, how you are doing. And so that's what we will do in January. But I'll order those services, and hopefully this will be a success and maybe quick. Okay.
Hopefully.
All right. I appreciate y'all very much. Thank you.
Thank you.
I'll see some of you back conducting this through Zoom. We are live streaming, and Ms. Taylor is making our record today. Okay, Ms. Taylor, I just want to make sure you are there because I don't have your video, but just to be sure. Okay. All right, we'll go ahead and take announcements.
Daniel Trout for the Texas Department of Family and Protective Services. Brittany Perez is my investigator today. Your Honor, we are present and ready.
Joel Jackson on behalf of Mother Lakeisha Scott's present and ready.
TD Hammonds for the father, Adam Aguilar Jr. We're ready to proceed, Judge.
Stacy Zavala on behalf of the kids.
All right, thank you. All right, this is our second setting for the adversary. Mr. Aguilar had not requested an attorney prior to the last setting, and he did ask for one at that time, so we reset for today's date. Although we have a companion case, that case had been resolved. So we are ready to proceed today on this case. Any announcements to make, Mr. Trout? Are we ready to start?
I believe we have an announcement, Your Honor. I received, of course, Mr. Jackson's signature last week on this case also. I haven't spoken to him, but I'm just assuming that we're still in agreement. And then I received an email from Mr. Hammonds last night that they would be in agreement, and I'll let him announce that if that's still the case. But that was my understanding, that we should have an agreement on both sides, Your Honor.
All right, Mr. Hammonds.
Judge T.D. Hammonds here representing Mr. Aguilar. I've spoken to him over the last couple of days. He understands how we got to this point. He's in agreement to letting the department have temporary managing conservatorship. He will stay in contact with his caseworker, develop a service plan, and he's willing to cooperate with the department in a service plan.
All right, thank you, sir. All right, so Mr. Trout, let me kick this back to you. Are we agreeing to no child support, no medical support?
Yes, ma'am, at this time, yes, ma'am.
And do we have any issues about starting visitation with either parent?
I think, that was kind of discussed in the last hearing. I did get an update that I know last time we'd mentioned that there was some pneumonia RSV with the children. My understanding is that I'm trying to find that email where it says it, that the children are well and recovered from that. I believe St. Francis met with Ms. Stotts, I believe it was yesterday. So they had a conversation with her, they're meeting with her on that. I think they're working on getting visitation set up on that side, is my understanding. They had some issues with some people in Lubbock and the timing and getting appointments, but they think they've got that worked out, so they should be getting visitation set up. As far as with Dad, let me make sure on something on that real quick, Your Honor.
And Judge T.D. Hammonds here. I don't know if the visits, if they had been 3 hours a week leading up to this hearing, but Mr. Aguilar was wanting as much as possible. I understand if they're in Lubbock, that might be difficult, but he's willing to cooperate in any way possible.
All right, so the Aguilar children are both placed in Lubbock. All right, what's parents' transportation situation?
Adam, do you have your own vehicle? Are you able to get where you need to go?
Yes, sir.
Okay.
Judge,
I work a lot, so I won't be able to get to nowhere until maybe after 6 p.m.
Well, we'll have to kind of figure that out. Go ahead, Mr. Jackson.
Ms. Stotts has transportation. It's our understanding that they were trying to set up face-to-face visits over there in Lubbock, and they were understaffed. Have anybody around to monitor those visits? That was our understanding.
Let me just ask, and I don't know, Ms. Sessions may be the one to answer, I'm not sure. Could the visits be done in Plainview? I know we've done that with some kids that are placed in Lubbock.
We actually have the visits set up. They're referred to a contractor there in Lubbock. So those are the face-to-face visits are being set up through that contractor.
Okay. All right.
And I believe Ms. Stotts has a virtual visit with the kids tomorrow.
All right. So that's probably, we're speaking a foreign language to parents. So St. Francis has certain contractors that work with them to supervise visitation and do other things. So we'll get those figured out. We're going to have to talk with Mr. Aguilar about his hours and what those limitations are on scheduling visits. So for parents' benefit, once we get past this point, then St. Francis will be officially in the case, and then they can start talking with you all and making these arrangements. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
Judge, and to clarify, like everything has been sent off and it's really just a matter of the contractor at this point reaching out to the parents to get the scheduling down. Everything's done on our end to get that stuff set up.
Okay, so y'all be sure and monitor your phones, your text messages, so because there may be somebody reaching out to you about scheduling your visits. Okay, and I can't tell you who that person is. I'm sorry, but I wouldn't know. So just be sure if you get a call from somebody you don't know, I'm sure they will leave a message. Be sure and return that call.
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
Your Honor, I'm sorry. There were some things that weren't in place last time I looked at this, so I was trying to clarify on a few things. I do see that there is believe Mr. Aguilar has some criminal issues going on also. And I believe he has a bond condition that there's no direct or indirect contact with mom in this case. So I was trying to check on all bond conditions and stuff.
Okay. Right, Mr. Aguilar, are you aware of that and you understand that you can have no contact with her?
Yes, ma'am. That's not an issue.
Okay. Okay, and understand that's not an order out of my court, but that's obviously a bond condition you have.
Yes, ma'am. The other bond condition I have is to do a mental health assessment.
Okay. Okay. All right then. So Mr. Jackson, obviously that's your all's agreement. You've submitted signatures on that. And Mr. Hammonds, you've indicated that's Mr. Aguilar's agreement. Ms. Zavala,
yes,
let me hear from you.
Yes, Your Honor, that's my agreement. I do believe it's in the best interest of the kids. I had also followed up on that RSV issue and was able to talk with placement. The kids are doing well back in daycare. So I know that was a concern last time, but this is my agreement as well.
Your Honor, at the last hearing, we had also made a request for an expedited home study on LaShonda Walker, the maternal grandmother. And we weren't able to do that at that last hearing, and I'm making that request for this hearing now.
Correct. We discussed it and obviously we couldn't get those wheels turning until we have an order for temporary managing conservatorship. So
Yes, ma'am.
I'm confident, Ms. Sessions, you all have that information and we'll move forward with that home study at this point in time, right?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay.
I'll get an order filed.
The name again was on
LaShonda Walker.
LaShonda, yes, sir. That's correct.
Yeah, I've got it written down, Judge. I'll get an order filed on that also.
Yeah, I think I gave Mr. Pratt the information.
Yeah.
Would I be able to do that too?
I'm sorry, what, sir?
Would I be able to do that too?
Do what?
The home study?
Is there somebody you're wanting to have a home study done on?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay, you need to give that information into your permanency specialist. Who's gonna be working the case?
Tiffany Brown.
Tiffany Brown, Your Honor.
Okay, you be sure just give her that information. Okay, so that if because we try to do these home studies one at a time.
Yes, ma'am.
So just be sure and give that information to them. Okay.
Yes, ma'am.
All right. And so Ms. Walker is maternal. How is she related? I'm sorry.
She is maternal grandmother.
Maternal grandmother. Okay. All right, then at this time, I do find the evidence is sufficient to name the Department of Family and Protective Services as the temporary managing conservator. I do find that there would be a continuing and ongoing danger to return the children home at this time. Parents have agreed to these orders, have agreed to work services. I do find that the department has made reasonable efforts to avoid the removal of the child. We had a FBSS case going for a while and we didn't really get much of anywhere in that. So we'll enter these orders now, and then at the next hearing, I will talk with parents a little bit more about their services. But between now and our next hearing, St. Francis representatives will meet with you all, talk with you about what you're going to need to be doing. I encourage you to be involved in that and to attend those meetings when your service plans are developed so that you have input. And I will see everybody back for our status hearing on November 14th of 2023, and that'll be on a 9 o'clock docket.